Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the Dell Latitude 12 E5250. I was always a big fan of the Latitude series, especially ever since I reviewed the E5450. Is this smaller version as good as the 14-inch version already was? Let's find out in my full review. Let's start off with the design and build quality. The first thing that has to be mentioned, with 1.73 kilograms, this is definitely no lightweight device, even though it feels more like 1.5 or so. It is also not the thinnest one, there is some heft and chunk to it. Not the most compact one, almost the size of a, let's say, 13.3 incher. But this comes with a really nice trade-off. This device feels amazingly substantial, solid and very sturdy. On the top we have this nice soft touch coated magnesium. Very nicely done against scratches, feels just amazing. On the back we have also very nice feeling plastic, hard plastic, and this is also very rugged. We don't have rubber feet though, just plastic feet, so it will slide a little bit on the table. Here we have the port for the docking station and some ventilation. On the left side we can see the Kensington lock, more ports for ventilation, headphone jack, smart card reader, here front bottom firing speakers. And on the right side we have a full-size SD card slot, the whole SD fits in, which is nice. USB 3.0 with always on, mini display port. On the back we have Gigabit Ethernet, USB 3.0, full-size HDMI, USB 3.0 again, and the port for the charging. So overall I have to say, yes, not the thinnest, not the smallest, but very substantial and amazing feeling. If we open it, that can be done with one hand, but since I said it already, it will slide away. You will see the keyboard. And I am a big fan of the Latitude series keyboard because we have amazing amount of key travel, very nicely dampened. It's a quiet keyboard and it just provides a really great experience. We don't have any media keys, but since it's a business device, I get why. There's also two levels of backlight, quite bright, almost too bright in some situations, but overall I gotta admit this is one of the best keyboards you can get. In terms of the touchpad or trackpad, also really nice. We don't have a track point here though, so you will have to use either a mouse or the trackpad. The trackpad itself feels really nice. The size is okay, the buttons work out very well, nicely done here, and the scrolling, as you can see here, works really nice. What is also really nice, we already have Windows 10 gestures enabled, because you can see you can, not right now, okay, as you can see here, this all works. You can switch between the apps, but there's no further customization here. But since those are the inbuilt ones, I am fine. So the trackpad as well is really good, but it's still not quite on the Apple level, but I have no complaints here at all. If we take a look at the 12.5-inch low-res display, because this is actually the first gripe I have with this device, it is the low-res TN panel. We have a resolution of 1366 by 768. It gets the job done if you are in a quite okay distance, but it is definitely no lovely display. In terms of maximum brightness, as you can see, we are already at full brightness, and it isn't really bright. It is bright enough for indoors. Outdoors, it is maybe okay because we have this nice matte panel with no crystallized pattern. This is nice, but it is also not even the dimmest panel, because if you want something really dim, that's not even it. But getting to the resolution, you won't get any scaling issues because of this resolution. You can use 100% without any issues. It's okay in terms of sharpness, but I'm not overwhelmed. The white level was a little bit too warm. I adjusted it a bit, made it a little bit colder. But then again, you can see the viewing angles here aren't really great because we have this TN panel. And the same gets obvious on the blacks, because the blacks are quite good if you look at them straight onto, but as you can see here, you will get some negative effect here as well. So the viewing angles aren't just great. The colors then again, if you look at the right angle on it, are actually quite okay. If you watch pictures or movies, it works out quite good. They aren't vibrant for sure. They aren't really dull either though. That is okay. So I think it's pretty obvious. I'm not a big fan of this display. There is a 1080p touchscreen version, and I would definitely prefer to get this one. So my recommendation is just get that one, and you will enjoy this device a lot more, because the display gets the job done. For a TN low-res panel, it is of good quality, but still it is a TN panel with a quite low resolution. So let's check the sound then. Okay, as you maybe heard already, it is quite loud, so in most cases it was definitely loud enough. This is a little bit of a louder track, so maybe on YouTube you could run into issues, but most of the times it will be fine. Once again, as I said, front bottom firing stereo speakers. If you have them on your lap, it will be muffled, which I wasn't a fan ever on a Latitude device, but if it's on a desk, it sounds really good. Quite nice, not really any bass, mids are okay, and the highs are in this case actually not that muffled as usually. We don't have the max audio settings. These kind of seem to be just for the Inspiron and XPS series. Even though the settings are there, they are just not activated. So the sound once again isn't bad. As for the performance, let's go into the browser and check the scrolling here. As you can see here within Edge, scrolling works out quite nice. No real issues, really nice. If you go into Chrome, things aren't really that much worse either. Let's do it. As you can see here, works okay. It's not as smooth, but for Chrome that is absolutely fine. We only use the i3-5010U here, and the main issue or the main downside on this CPU here in this case is we don't have any turbo boost. That is pretty much the only thing, but you will notice this quite a lot because this device often felt a little bit sluggish, like it had a few waiting seconds from time to time. Most of the office jobs can be done very well, but I wouldn't use it for anything more sophisticated. So video editing and all that, I wouldn't recommend it. It works, yes, but it's not recommended because you will also notice one thing, and that is, if I can find it, let me check the speeds of the hard drive, because we don't have an SSD, and as you can see, for a hard disk drive the speeds are okay, but it is still a hard drive. So I would definitely prefer or suggest you get an SSD, and it will boost the overall experience a lot. Then this device should perform okay, but I would still say, if we are already talking about the specifications, get the 1080p panel and get the i5 version, maybe even the i7, and you will enjoy this device a lot more, because it's just the basic configuration that I'm not the biggest fan of, because the device itself is really nice. And this brings me to the battery, because let me quickly scroll down to get my values here. In 1 hour you are at 52%, 2 hours and you are at 95, and 2 hours and 40 you are at 100. But it has to be mentioned once again, this is a Latitude series, so you have different charging presets. So you can charge it in less than 2 hours and even longer than 3 hours. Keep that in mind. As for the battery life, I have only the 38 milliwatt hours battery here in this device, and that's why the battery life maybe isn't as amazing. As you can see here, 4 hours, 4 hours, 4 hours once again. And on another battery report I got again 4 hours. Here I got 5, 3.5, 5, 4, 4.5. So I would say anything between 4 and 5 is realistic, but I have to mention I used 100% of brightness all the time because of the quite dim panel. If you manage to use it with something lower, because it doesn't really dim that much, you could use maybe 70, 80%. If that's enough for you, then actually the battery life, considering the battery isn't that big, is quite okay. There are different configurations available, of course. That's always region specific where you will get a bigger battery, because I think I saw something like a maximum of 62 milliwatt hours, and then you should get even more out of battery life. And one thing quickly to mention is also the one thing that I forgot. Let me quickly scroll up to see what I forgot. That is the RAM. Yes, exactly, because this device has 4 gigabytes of RAM. There is an 8 gigabyte version, but we have 2 slots, so you can get maximum of 16 gigabytes of RAM, which should improve the multitasking a lot. If we go into the heat and noise, this is a little bit of a mixed bag, because the heat itself is great. This device never gets really any warm, never. You can use it on your lap without any issues. And about the noise, the odd thing is, even in idle and light tasks, this device has the fan almost always spinning. Very subtle, almost soothing in some way, but I don't really get why, because it wouldn't be necessary. The great thing though about this though is, even under full CPU load, the speed of the fans doesn't increase anymore. That is nice, because this is the most quiet device under full load that I used. If you add GPU load then it will get about 8 or 10 degrees higher in terms of temperatures, and then it will start to spin, still be very subtle and still be quite quiet Not super quiet though, but definitely not loud, not annoying, which is nice. In terms of audibility, there's also has to be mentioned that the spinning hard drive can be heard pretty much all the time. No call window, which is nice. So in terms of heat, absolutely great. In terms of noise, it's not like the noise is annoying or did bother me, because it was really subtle, but the case that it's always, or pretty much always on, is just a little bit odd. In terms of software and bugs, there is not much to say, because everything was stable. There is a lot of bloat maybe installed, as you can see, but that's also a lot of Windows stuff already, so not really too much to blame for Dell for, and that's it pretty much. And now let's get to the recap. Okay, let's wrap things up then. In terms of design and build quality, absolutely impressed. The device feels very solid, substantial and premium. Therefore, it's not the most compact and lightweight one. We get a great amount of ports, more than most people will ever need, and if not enough, you still have the option to go for the docking station. The keyboard is one of the best on the market. I'm just not quite so sure about the long-term durability, because as well on this as on other Latitude devices, I noticed that some buttons start to make a little bit of odd sounds after a while, but since I haven't used one for a longer period of time, I can't say much more about that. The trackpad is also one of the best on the market, very precise, good in terms of size, and also recognized multi-finger gestures very well. The display is not so impressive because quite dim. TN panel with low resolution just wasn't that impressive. It did get the job done if you know what you get, but I would recommend to go for the full HD version. The sound was absolutely fine, no problems, loud enough in most cases. Tonal balance was also fine. For a business device, I shouldn't expect any more. In terms of performance, I would say go for the i5 or i7, because the i3 here without the turbo boost felt quite sluggish and had some mini freezes all the time. It just never felt really fast, and this comes also along with the hard disk drive that just wasn't the fastest either. So SSD and i5 or i7, and the overall experience in terms of performance should be boosted quite dramatically. Battery life here as well. Go for something bigger, because the 38 mAh battery in this device held up pretty well, but if you need all day battery life, I don't think it will be enough. In terms of heat, it was fine, never really got any warm at all. And in terms of noise, it was a slight hit and miss, because in idle and light task it never was silent, but very subtle and quite soothing actually, because the fans were spinning so subtle that I most of the times didn't even notice that they were working, but they did. But once you put in full CPU load, the great thing is it didn't get any louder either. Only if you add additional GPU performance and need more power, then the fans started to spin a little bit higher, still quite subtle and still not annoying at all, which is pretty nice to see. Software was fine, Windows 10 without any issues, no problems here, nothing to add or mention. So, final words. I am not the biggest fan of this configuration, but I'm a big fan of the core base of this device, because in pretty much most aspects it is just a shrunken down E5450, and then we get a lot of great qualities. So if I get better specs, so a full HD panel with a bigger battery and the i5 with an SSD, then I would be fully satisfied. And I can't really say anything about pricing, because I noticed on a lot of comments on other reviews of Dell devices I made so far that they just differ too much in regions in terms of price and configuration, because some regions don't even get the highest spec versions, but therefore are a little bit better in terms of price. So just keep that in mind, go check the market, see what you find. And with the proper configuration, this is a really nice smaller business device. Okay, that was my review of the Dell Latitude 12 E5250. If you have any further questions or comments, leave them down in the comments below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. Okay, until next time, bye.